Nissan truck coming in. Just want to take a look around.
I'm just recording audio of this.
Copy. Yeah, good.
Right now we're going to Las Vegas to the sheriff's office to submit a paper. I don't know. The head of the militia is gonna go to the sheriff's office and submit some kind of paper. So we're following him now, and we're gonna see what happens.
Attorney here, and there has a form that basically it's going to document that they refused to see us and that we were here to try to speak to the sheriff. Our intention is to submit a form to him every day and build a paper trail and try to see them. And then we're studying right now the sheriff's legal responsibility, what his obligations are under his oath of office and under the Constitution. To enforce the law, like to keep the BLM federal agencies off, because it's really under his purview to do any serving of papers and such. It's not up to BLM to come out there with the security force like they did.
California.
Yeah, originally I am.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm in Orange County,
Oh,
San
yeah?
Juan Capistrano area.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm doing a couple of talk shows now, and we are on the mission to get Kamala Harris in control. You know, we've got all the foreclosure fraud and everything that wraps into the same type of stuff that's going on with the Bundys, tied right back to the land records fraud and theft, and all of it going straight through judiciaries and the courts, and shadow cases, shadow dockets, and running warrants on our little kids' backs, and felonies and everything else. So we've got all the proof of it. So we're just
Well, we're fighting Agenda 21.
That's all the same. Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, as coming out here lets us know how blessed we are that it doesn't have such a foothold out there.
Oh, we're actually at a good point right now, because so many people are waking up to this.
Yeah.
That we're talking,
Yeah.
and we're showing up, and thanks to Mike and Citizens Action Network, we have Remedy, and the Remedy is working. I know I've been fighting. I fought 2 illegal foreclosures. I'm on my 3rd already on my 1 home.
Wow.
Have had the tax assessor's office steal land from me. Literally have had to go pro se to save my home, and then I've had to go 700 miles from my house to find an attorney we could trust.
Wow.
So it's
That's all.
only 700. I know it's pretty bad, isn't it?
It is bad.
But the good news is we're all coming together.
Right.
And this is just when you look at each of us and realize that we connect with at least 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And wherever we go, the more we talk,
Actually, more.
Well, yeah, but everywhere you go, if you talk to somebody, that multiplies it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna win this.
And what's your name again?
Renee Powers.
Renee Powers.
Yeah, I do a talk show. It's called 2 Moms on a Burro, BOROUGH, and then we have Citizens Action Network. Also have National Liberty Alliance for common law grand juries, which we're really pushing really hard right now. So anybody seeing this, get to your common law grand jury and get signed up, become a jurist, and let's push this, because right now the numbers are going through the roof. Good old Harry Reid's helping us, because he's such an idiot that people recognize that we have got to get good guys in there, and the only way we're going to do that is for us to do it. So thank you, Mr. Reid. As much as you're being a horrible man, you're actually helping us with our cause. So keep it up, because the more you open your mouth, the more we get help. So
I think all people are also going to recognize by this process is how important the county sheriff is.
beyond.
The county sheriff is a critical element to the security and the freedom and the protection of the citizens in a county. They are really the power in the law enforcement agencies. They can turn the federal government back and reject them it's within their legal boundaries to be able to do that. And so when you have a sheriff running for office, it's a really important thing to vet that sheriff, make sure he understands or she understands their obligations under the Constitution, and that they'll stand for them. Because if they don't, you end up in a situation really like we're going in right now, and I wouldn't have to be here from New Hampshire all the way in Nevada, nor would all these other people, and there's a lot of them here in Nevada right now, have traveled great lengths at a great expense on their own because the sheriff in this county has not been doing their job. So it's really important that if you're not in this county, that wherever it is you live in the United States, and if you have a sheriff, that you really vet them, and then you go support them as if they're a good constitutional candidate for that office. If they're not, get somebody in there who is, and because you may end up being here in the same position. You might be the next Bundys in America, because there are a lot of Bundys in America. They just are afraid because of the full weight and the tactics of the federal government to stand up and say anything, that the government will come pounding down hard upon them. And it's frightening, I'm sure, for the Bundys as well as everybody else. So I would just really urge you to pay attention to your county sheriff elections.
Well, not only that, but all of us are victims of theft and fraud behind the scenes, whether you know it or not. So get into your land records, because we're all victims. They're stealing our identities and using them and bastardizing them for us. So,
Thank you. WERS?
correct.
All right.
We're here to meet with Sheriff Gillespie.
Let me get one of the officers that services these buildings, and I'll be happy to.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Marcus, are you here in the building? Would you come out to the lobby right now?
Does he have a card, or is there a phone number that we'd be able to reach him at?
One of our offices that work our headquarters buildings is coming down here.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Well, they tried. I caught them in October when I went in, because the last time my home was stolen, I got it back through a judgment. And when I went in to tell the tax assessors, I was giving them copies, and I pulled the record book out, and I saw that it was missing land. And they tried to tell me, oh, no, and I said, yeah, I'm missing land. They gave me a song and a dance, and ended up putting it back on the paper. But basically, it was a perfect utility easement straight down the side of my property, 20 feet wide. And that's a lot of land, 1.63 acres. So had I have not caught it, it would have been a prescriptive easement for them in 2016. And they did it with, in 2009, they did it with a 1996 survey that was just for property line, or for a county line. Had nothing to do with private properties. It changed all of the properties around us. So there's a lot going on with water, and a big development is going in a plot away from me. And by using the 1996 survey, they supersede the Clean Water Act.
Oh, that's
So
much stuff.
they made it appear as if they used a current survey, but they didn't. So had they've had to use a new survey, they would have had to take into consideration all the Clean Water Act, which, because they're violating 36 negatives, including Indian burial ground, upsetting waterway, upsetting drain off, top water, groundwater, right down to hieroglyphics. And it's just amazing.
Do you live near a major freeway?
I live on the border of Orange County and Riverside, so that's where crime, fraud is done, is on boundaries and borders.
Right.
And so what they do is they folded an easement into my property. They said when they put it back, it didn't affect anybody else's land around me. I said, it can't unless you were folding in an easement. And they said, which we know what that means. You were taking my land for a utility to come through.
Oh,
And they work together. It's systemic. You've got your utility. And 2 weeks after I found this, they threw me into foreclosure. And I've got another fake entity coming to try and steal my house. Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. But this all ties in. The BLM is a third-party debt collector. That's all they are. They're only supposed to be managing, just like the servicers do for the banks. They have no right to do what they're doing. They have no right to take land. They have no right to take property. But it's the same thing, just with different clothes on.
Do you have a problem with your sheriff where you live?
Yeah, I was assaulted in the sheriff recorder's office last month, and they determined that they did nothing wrong.
And that, what county was that?
County of Orange, California.
Oh,
Yeah, I went in to record a document, and they wouldn't record it, but they were going to keep copies of all my documents.
I heard it's happening a lot
It's
in
happening
California.
everywhere, every corner of this world, every recorder's office, every land records, and it's the people who are handling the money that are funneling and laundering and stealing. You have a lot of good people, but until we get it, vetted out, this county right here is one of the worst land records.
Yeah.
It's just, but we're all talking about it, and I don't care who you are, or who you work for. If you're going to be corrupt, you can't
No,
do.
you
This is
can't.
not the modus operandi. This is not how our country's supposed to be.
No.
So, when you've got people in uniform believing that they're better than you because they're wearing a uniform, or that they can laugh at you or belittle you, that right there is just egregious. When you go in asking for help and you end up being the one assaulted, something's wrong. And we know what's wrong. They're all private entities.
Right.
These are not government offices. They're all private corporations. So they're all business. They're not in the business for us. They're in the business for the corporation.
Right.
So that's where we have got to shut down those corporations.
Right.
Oh, I think this gentleman is. Oh.
We're asking. I think I got half of the battery.
Right.
What county is this? What county? I felt that way for you. First time Spanish water was in the second. There's also Virginia City, they had like a moratorium for 20 years. Built a Victorian up there. No, it's right. It's great people up there. Different whole environment. That's been up there really since. It's probably like 70 people. How many years?
Several years ago, many years ago.
It's fun.
Have a conversation here with
They heard that you could sing, so they're all on there.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Tried out for American Idol.
Yeah, well. I'm singing the wrong sing.
Well, who's making the request?
I'm making a request. I think there's a couple others who are making a request. Just like could talk to the sheriff. Is it all available?
Okay. Our secretary is not available today. You can leave your name and the reason that you need to speak to him, and I'll be more than happy to pass that forward. And see if appointment can be set up.
That'd be great. And then, do you have any idea how long? I'll leave a cell phone number and then call me, or how would that work? Is there a form I need to fill out?
No, just leave that information.
Very informal here. You can use my pen here. And
Thanks. I'll try not to kite this.
Yeah, I'll keep
You're
it
coming
on.
after me. You better. You'll I don't have to worry why I don't want to see him. He'll know I want to see him.
Well, just leave the reason why.
I'll put my name on there first.
Because there may be someone else that might be able to respond to your needs better than the sheriff. So.
Who would that be?
Well, it
Depend on
depends on what the issue is. Sometimes there's an issue in a certain area, and if that issue is in an area where the area command captain can take care of it, then that's what happens.
Area command captain?
If there's an area, say, in the northeast area command or the southeast area command, where that captain can handle that issue, then we'll handle it at the lowest possible level. That's what I'm saying.
Sir, your name is Terry?
Terry Bundy.
Right. This is Bill's name.
Do you have anything to share for the public on the situation with the Bundy Ranch?
No.
No word?
Do you have a badge number, sir?
4634.
Okay. All this is that we we came here and we made an attempt to speak with the sheriff. And that, we were told when we were turned away, and denied access to resolve our issues.
Well, see, this is no different than anyone else that would come here. Anybody that would come here would make an appointment, and that would be based on availability. And I'm just telling you right now, there's no availability because the schedule is booked up, and we put this schedule up quick.
I understand that makes perfect good sense, it does. But we will need an appointment to see him. Right?
Well, if the availability is there, if no one else can handle that issue, then yes, I will try to make an appointment. But that's based on the sheriff. If you know, if it's
Permission from the king.
See, here's our concern.
If the king gives you permission, you can see him. If he doesn't, you can't.
Here's our concern.
okay.
We want to talk to him, and it's his duty to talk to us. Okay?
Not unless he gives you permission. The king has to give you permission first.
So that's all we're requesting to speak with him. And so we think that we're probably going to be denied access to him.
Well, I can't answer that one way or another. I have to see what the issue
He
is.
has to wait till
and
the
I have to
king
pass
gives
that
him
on.
permission.
Well, I understand your position, but
You
the real
understand,
position
right?
is that
You can't
the
tell
people wishes to talk
That's what we came to talk
to the sheriff.
Yeah, I'll pass that.
And it doesn't require your determination to figure out whether or not we have an issue that qualifies.
Yellow's my favorite color.
That makes sense?
It makes perfect
I
sense.
always go with that. I like that.
So, we're gonna leave today, and we leave out, we're gonna try to make an appointment, all right? And, if we're denied employment, we're denied access, then we're probably gonna keep coming for a while. And we're gonna ask somebody to acknowledge that we came and we were denied access. Is that fair enough?
I'm not denying you access, sir. I'm just you're simply making an appointment, just like anybody else would. I'm not denying you any access. I'm just saying, you make an appointment, and I push that forward, and if it rises to the need to see the sheriff, then that's what will happen. If not, it can be handled at the lowest possible level, then that's what will happen.
Okay. So you don't wanna sign this?
No, sir, I'm not sorry.
Okay.
The
Well,
lowest
we have other
possible
witnesses
level,
here.
why would we have to come here if there's something arising right now? The lowest possible level should be taking
Yeah.
care of it right now. We shouldn't be.
Yeah, the lowest
at
possible level.
Clark County Metropolitan Police
I guess what we're
Department.
saying is there's a matter of pressing importance to the community of Clark County, and we're trying to voice what that matter is.
Absolutely,
I
and
know
that's
that.
fine.
I don't see how you could have anything more important going on.
That's
Can we set
fine.
an appointment right now? Could we do that? Can you find out how we could meet with him tomorrow? Any window of time that he would have, so that we would like to take no more than 10 minutes? I'm sure, we could squeeze something in. Could we find out if that would be possible? Because you're saying to set an appointment. Could we find out about setting one?
I will set an appointment as soon as possible if an appointment will be set.
Well,
But I
that's
have
what
to
I'm
take
saying.
a look at what the issue is, and then we'll make that decision.
There's, what we're saying is, we have to talk to the sheriff. There's no qualifying on your side. We're the people. Right?
Okay, I've made this as clear as I can possibly make it, okay?
Yeah, you gotta get permission from the king. You made it very clear.
No, my question is, and I understand where you're coming from, because this is all, I understand there's a ladder that we have to go up, is what you're saying.
Yes.
And again, there's opinions to different things here, but what I'm asking.
How you
is,
doing? What's your name?
If we were to sit and wait politely, sit and wait, could you find out who is we that has to determine
What's that?
whether we get an appointment or not, or what time? Who would that be?
Well, we have to look at.
Okay, how about we just tell you what the issue is? Does someone want to explain what the issue is again, and then that way maybe we can sit down? We've got time, because obviously it's a 2-hour ride. So why don't we give it the opportunity to make it just see if it's possible that we could set an appointment for tomorrow for a 10-minute window time, rather than, so.
Again, the schedule is set, and there is no time right now in that schedule tomorrow for an appointment.
For an urgent appointment?
But what I would have to do is look at this, at the issue, and present it to the sheriff, and let him make that decision.
Okay, may I ask you what you're going to present to him based on what you've heard so far, just so we know where
Based on what the
we're
gentleman.
Okay, no, that's what I'm saying. Can we have you read it, and then let us know how you're interpreting it, because we're willing to wait.
I don't make the decision, man.
Well, that's what I'm asking you, who will make the decision?
The sheriff will make the decision as to whether or not there's a need for.
And is the sheriff actually here right now?
The sheriff is busy right now.
Okay, oh, no, I understand that, but that's why I'm saying, that we're all busy, and we've all come from all over the country to do this, so what I'm asking is could we maybe problem solve so we won't have this issue? You read what the issue is, we'll sit and wait, and we'll just talk amongst us, because a lot of us haven't met before, we'll just sit and wait, and then within a half hour, if you could at least just come back out, let us know whether you've had the opportunity to present it, because it's not hard, it doesn't take more than 60 seconds to present the situation, because everybody in the nation knows what's going on, and we would just really appreciate that it's your job. We're not getting paid to be here, and we're asking you very nicely to let's problem solve and get this done so we don't have a whole nother group coming and going and coming and going. Because I think psychologically, the more you drag people in and out, the harder it gets. And you guys today have smiles on your faces, so it'd be really nice to keep it that way for all of us. So what I'm going to suggest is that we all go sit and wait. We're going to give you a half hour, and then when you come back out, Jerry will meet with you, and we'll see what the sheriff says. If at that time he doesn't say anything, then we'll wait another half hour and at least get some kind of answer today so we can get some kind of resolution so we're not going back and forth like this, because it really is an urgent situation. Is that fair enough?
That's fair enough.
Can I shake on that? I just want to shake your hand and thank you for your time. And what's your first name? Terry. Renee. Thank you, Terry, very much. So we're going to go ahead and sit and wait. You go ahead and read it and take it on in and come on back out. It may be sooner now.
Oh, that's the guy. That's him.
Oh, is that what they said?
I think that's, you know what they said when I went up to the glass. You heard them, the two gals were the receptionists.
Yeah.
They making the comment that's him or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, what they really need to realize is we're here trying to follow the letter of the law as well. That we're not here to cause problems. We're here to try to follow into those lines of legality that are actually set forth in the law, requesting that the sheriff, in fact, would do his job, and that his agents would do their job. And it's understand that we came in without an appointment. So I mean, I can give him a give on that, but I would just hope that he would. At a chance to de-escalate something as large as this, that is of nationwide precedence. I mean, that the eyes of America and, matter of fact, around the world are looking at, that the sheriff would be able to joggle the schedule a little bit, or make time for us, even if it's later, and meet with us for 5 or 10 minutes and see what it is we want. And if he could de-escalate this whole thing in a simple conversation in a room, it seems a lot more logical than to spend millions of dollars trying to arm up God knows who all, and then come out and have some battle with us that is really completely unnecessary.
Are you going to do the same thing that Clive and Bundy did and try to have that conversation where the press can be part of it and it happens in front of the American people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we actually are all part of it. It'd probably be a good idea if everybody put in a notice in there, a request to meet as well, and if he would do that. But you know, it's like Judge Dredd. You know, I am the law. You know, so we'll have to see how that goes. I know he hasn't taken the bull by the horns to do his job so far, at least in this particular case. And we'll just have to see how it goes. Hopefully it'll work out. You know, so we can all go home, and then this won't be a thorn under his saddle either. He'll be able to go home, and the buddies will be able to reclaim what is theirs and take it through the court system.
Did you happen to notice that at one point, you know, we started with maybe 2 officers and
the whole room
and
filled
then we
up?
were surrounded by 7 or 8 officers, and I'm noticing it says no weapons right on the door. So you all have to come in unarmed, and then you're surrounded by armed guys. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm a big Second Amendment guy, and I don't really think that there's any place that you should be able to carry a firearm. I mean, unless somebody in their house doesn't want a firearm for whatever reason, that's their own personal private property. This is actually public property, but I'm not going to fight them on that issue. I mean, they got enough to deal with. But what I am going to stay on them on is the issue of them doing their job, and it's very specific according to their oath and to the Constitution, the state of Nevada, what their job is. And I mean, they have legal precedence for what their job is, and they need to adhere to that and fulfill that. I mean, if the law, the officials who are elected or hired to do the law, to make sure that the law is put in place, don't do that, then what's the average citizen see? What hope does the average citizen have?
What does that
They have nothing, because if you end up with a lawless government, what's that say? How this? But that's exactly why we're here. Is because we're trying to reinstill the law and reinstate the rule of law in the state of Nevada, at least in this county. if the sheriff had done his job in the beginning, and or the governor had done their job in the beginning, we wouldn't be here. This wouldn't be an issue at all. I mean, I'd still be at home in New Hampshire with my wife instead of standing out here in front of a police department building in Las Vegas, Nevada.
What did you think of him explaining to you that they'll take your request and then try to handle it with the lowest common denominator? Do you think?
Well, I think I'll give that some credence, but he knows as well as we know that's crap. And the reality is he knows that this is a really big issue, but he's got a job to do, and that's what he's going to say. I mean, he's probably their PR guy, and that's what he's going to do. The reality is he'll take this up to the sheriff. The sheriff will probably roll his eyes and wish that we were gone. And but that's not gonna happen.
I'm sorry. What did you make of what did you say about the grievance? I know you had to fill out a request and state what that request was about.
Well, it was a concern about the sheriff actually doing fulfilling his oath of office and keeping and dealing with the BLM on the Bundy's property, and so he knows what the grievance is.
Okay.
And, I mean, if the sheriff in this county doesn't know what's going on there, they should just kick him out right now. He's fully aware. It's whether or not he wants to be in front of a camera, or he really wants to deal with us, or he's hiding there, or hoping that somebody's going to save him from this, like another law enforcement agency or something else. If I was the governor of this state, I'd be kicking him in the ass, to be honest with you. Get down there and take care of that. Go take care of that. Talk to the feds, get the feds off of it, and de-escalate this whole thing, and just let it go away, and leave the Bundys alone. The problem is there's pressure from Harry Reid, I'm sure, and some others that aren't going to let this thing go away. As soon as we're gone, if in fact this thing isn't locked down tight for the Bundys, and in a court case that they have an actual chance of winning, they'll be back in there. They'll lien his property. They'll take it away for those trumped up fees on the property, and then after they take his property away, then the 600,000 acres will be a moot point. Whatever the BLM wants, because they'll retain that property, because Mr. Bundy and his family will be off the farm ranch that their families had since the 1870s, and that's the way I think that they want to go. So if they can ignore us or outweigh us long enough, and it's almost like a siege, and until we run out of resources to be able to stay there, or energies to stay there, is that we go away, and then they can go about their business, and it'll be much easier for them. Because if they had any intentions of doing the right thing with Mr. Bundy, they'd be reaching out to him. I mean, they'd be reaching out to him. I mean, if I was the governor of the state or the sheriff, I'd go sit down with them and have a cup of coffee and discuss this issue. I'd like, where are you coming from on this? What is the deal with this? Because I'd be curious, because you really want justice. And, Thomas Jefferson said it's better that 20 guilty men go free than one innocent man be in prison. Our society's flopped that over. It's better that 20 innocent are in jail than one guilty man be set free. So they just lock everybody up. Everybody's guilty before you have to prove your innocence, and that's a problem that Mr. Bundy's going through right now. Is they've already deemed him guilty. They've already deemed. I mean, they blackballed him in the press, and I'm really praying that Mr. Bundy's attorney has the strength and the audacity to go ahead and keep pushing that lawsuit through and take them to task for that, because it's wrong. And American people can't be bullied by their public servants anymore. It's just got to stop. That's why we're here, is to stop that nonsense. And if they're not willing, the sheriff's not willing to meet with him, that just says it all about the sheriff, and it says it all about the legal system.
Who's the lower person that gentleman was talking about?
That could be the janitor, for all we know.
Right.
What they're going to do is they have a chain of command, and naturally in a chain of command, you want to. The top guy's busy with other stuff, so he doesn't want to deal with everything. And I agree with that. I mean, if somebody comes in and wants to meet with the sheriff, and I'm sure they have it because their dog is gone, or their neighbor's dog went to the bathroom on their lawn,
right.
And I want to see the sheriff because I'm paying taxes. Well, I understand it in those steps, but with the process that we're in, where it's national and international news, there's no way he doesn't know that the importance of this issue and how dangerous it is as well. I mean, can you imagine if tonight, if someone got shot over there, got killed over there, and we had gone in to make peace with the sheriff to try to get this resolved in here, and he would even take the time to meet with us? I mean, how would that look for him? But that's the attitude of it, and that's exactly why it's escalated the way that it has. It hasn't been us escalating it; it's been us trying to de-escalate the federal, the BLM and the federal government from oppressing Mr. Bundy and his family. And until they're willing to do that, through the guy who's actually got the authority in the state of Nevada to do it, which is the sheriff, it's not going to happen, and we're going to stay. We're going to have to stay and ride it out, which is going to really frustrate my wife. And because I'm 2,700 miles from home, and I want to go home. And but I'm doggedly. I'll hang on to him like a dog on an old soup bone. We're just going to hang in there and keep up the fight and keep up the pressure on him and see where this leads. Hopefully we can get the public behind us on this, and that they will also help in this, because we're just asking for really justice for the Bundys. And I mean, that's a simple thing. And it's a shame that so many Americans have to come out here and sacrifice so much for something that the sheriff could do with a phone call. A simple phone call. An hour of his time, he could probably get this resolved, but he won't do it, or hasn't done it, at least to this date, and I'm praying that he does. And,
why do you think he won't do it?
well, I think there's a lot of political pressure from Harry Reid and some others in there, and I'm not sure who the others are, but you know, and then they get their feathers all ruffled up, and how dare them, right? The public service, how dare those peasants, you know, try to put us in a position and stand up to us because we're gods. And if you've gone to the Capitol in Washington, D.C., you can understand why they think they're gods, because the drinking fountains are all gold-plated, you know, and the ceilings are all magnificently painted, and so they think that we're servants to them, and which is exactly the opposite of the way this country was founded and set up to be. And until we can flip that around, if we can flip that around, it's going to remain this way. But you know, the thing is every county in America where something like this is going on, they're going to have the same problem, except for those counties where there's constitutional sheriffs who will stand up. And that's why it's important to have constitutional sheriffs. And we'll see. I mean, I'm going to run for sheriff in my county in New Hampshire, and the deal with me is I'm going to make every deputy, if in fact I'm elected, which will be interesting to see how that plays out.
When is that?
Is that the election will be this year, coming to be this year. So if I make it back in time to run, I would require every one of my deputies to take a class on the Constitution, so they know their limits under the Constitution, and then they'd be tested on that, make sure that they understood that, then they have to sign that in fact they understand that, and because I don't want them out there trampling on people's rights. It's important that they know their job description, just like anyone does. Even when you're in the military, when I was in the Marine Corps, they have the Uniform Code of Military Justice. They made us remember that, memorize that over and over. And there's one of the general orders in there is that you won't obey any unlawful orders. Well, these guys need to know that, and they're our job too. That they can't expect their officers to follow unlawful orders. Unlawful order will break the Constitution. And because if we're not standing up for the Constitution, that one document that he had to swear, he had to raise his hand and affirm or swear that he would uphold, he's not. And if he did that, this would go away. And but if he continues not to do that, then he's lawless himself. And then what I would urge the public to do is replace him. There are mechanisms to do that, and I'm not from Nevada, so I don't know all those mechanisms, but I'll learn those mechanisms, and that's what I would be pushing to do, is replace him with another sheriff. And the problem is there's a lot of people probably in Las Vegas who don't care, because they live here, and it's like, I don't own any land, or I'm renting an apartment, or whatever, I don't care. But to that breed that has founded this country, has shaped the state, and actually none of this would probably be here without them. They're getting kicked to the curb, and they're pushed off and with agreements that were made to them over a century ago by our government, and they're being mistreated, aligned, and maligned, and those agreements are being broken. Not much different than what happened when our federal government made promises to the American Indians. It's really not different. It's kind of ironic if you think about it. They made treaties, and then they'd break them, and because they wanted it, and then push them back a little further, push them back a little further. And this is really the same thing that's happening now to the Americans. Right. It's a little ironic, and quite ironic, I think, and because now we're getting a taste of what happened to them, even though we weren't there.
Right.
And, but I would. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I think they'll drag their feet, and I hope not. But you know, if they can tie you up in paperwork and bog you down, but it's to no advantage to them. because they're going to have to deal with it at some point. They might as well just deal with it as now. Get it over with. It's like getting a bad report card when you're a kid. You know, you might stall it around for a day or two, getting it to mom or dad. Yeah, sooner or later they're going to find out. Just do it. Just do it and get it over with, you know, and move ahead. And if he wants to tell us no, I don't care. I'm not going to abide by the Constitution, which that's not what he would say in those words, but that would be what he would do in his actions. Is just let us know. You know, if unless you're ashamed of your actions, or you know that in fact you're breaking your oath to the office through those actions, then you want to just slide by, avoid making any statements of it. And then what it is it's not actually the office of sheriff; it's the office of a politician, and there's a difference. So we're looking for a sheriff, not a politician.
You're trying to get it over, right? Harry
Absolutely.
Reid said it's not over. So Harry Reid, the only thing Harry Reid can do now is bring violence and coercion against the Bundys, correct?
Yes, I would say that, and probably against us as well. I mean, he's already proclaimed that from his position that we're domestic terrorists. I mean, that's quite an character assassination claim to a lot of guys who were fighting the terrorists overseas. You know, they've got Marines and Air Force guys and Army guys right over here right now that he's calling domestic terrorists who fought terrorism overseas, and as agents of the government and also as citizens of America. And for him to blatantly say that is so callous, and he says it almost cavalier, and like it's going to make it go away. It's like the liar accusing the other guy of lying because he doesn't want his lie to be known. And Harry Reid he's a disgrace, to be honest with you. He's shameful. He's a disgrace, and I don't know how he's managed to keep in office this long in Nevada, except somebody's pumping money into his campaigns. But
he's funneling money to his family, allegedly.
Well, sure he is, and it's illegal. And but they get so big that nobody can take them on, and they're afraid to. They just happen to run into a group of individuals, of Americans, who aren't afraid to. Then we're not afraid to. Go ahead. Whatever, go for it, Harry. But the thing is if he tries to make it so we can't get on an airplane, which I'm in no hurry to get on one anyways, or we can't buy a firearm by actually deeming us domestic terrorists. I mean, that's ludicrous and it's crap, to be honest with you. And the terrorist really is Harry Reid and the likes of him. Those people who allow this kind of thing to happen to the Bundys. It's not us who are defending the American citizens. I mean, who are the domestic terrorists after? I mean, right? Doesn't the government say because they're after us, the citizens? Or is it just because they're after the government, for the government doing their unlawful actions? So if you have a problem with the American government doing something that's illegal, you're going to be deemed a domestic terrorist? If a policeman goes over and blows a stoplight and runs over a little girl in an intersection, right, heaven forbid, that little girl's the domestic terrorist? Is that the way we look at this? Or is it that the policeman actually just had an accident, right? Wasn't paying attention and needs to deal with what happened, just like as though it was you or I who did that, and not the name calling, especially out of as big a bunch of liars as we have in Congress, to be honest with you, and in the White House. I mean, they changed the word to spin, but the reality is it's a lie, and I'm tired of their accusations against American people. We're the ones who pay their wages. It's unjust, it's unfair, and it's got to end. And we're here to see that it does. We're going to wait like an hour. I think we did. Imagine the show's still busy, so he's got our information unless somebody has some other word on that. So we're going to go. So we're going to stand out front. So if unless there's any word.
Do whatever you need, sir.
Huh?
You can do whatever you want.
Oh, we just don't want to be a problem either.
The young lady over here was waiting. She gave her name to Sergeant Bernard.
Okay.
So they went to the sheriff's office.
So you think I understand. That's kind of how we're at. Yeah, I understand.
I work here, but not up there.
He's normally staying like a 5 or so. I'm sure he's got some kind of hours. He tries to do
Business hours, building are 8 to 5.
Yeah, something, you know, it would be common sense not to stay any longer than that. I just don't want to. We came in on an hour. And to be fair to him.
Just made it. So it's a brand
If he wants us to make an appointment and call us, I'm okay with that. You know, I'm not.
Your message is being conveyed, so.
I guess we should maybe wait a few more minutes.
And some chairs.
Okay, we'll wait a little bit longer, and then and if he says he can't today, and somebody just tells us, we'll scoot on out of here and leave you guys alone. Okay? Thank you. Thank you for all you guys do too.
unavailable on campus, who's not here today. We pulled the undersheriff out of the meeting and spoke with the undersheriff, who is the second in command of this organization. And he said that we speak with Representative Bundy, or Bundy himself, and the BLM. We do not entertain, or we do not just let citizens come in and have the ability to speak with the undersheriff, the sheriff, without coordinating that schedule and getting a better appreciation of all the issues that they would discuss beforehand. They're not available today, and if there's, I'm sorry, there's nothing else I can do for you.
May I ask for clarity? You just said it had to be a liaison or the Bundys themselves,
Yes, ma'am.
correct? Okay, well, I'd like to introduce you to Ryan Payne. He actually is the OMA liaison for the Bundys in Orange, so maybe you two should have a quick conversation.
Yeah, I guess my question would be, what you're saying is that only the person who has a complaint or a redress of grievances can present that complaint. What about, is the public not entitled to make a complaint to their public servants?
No, I think I'd break that up into two things. Is that first is that, to clarify that first point, is that the sheriff has been in contact with Bundy for quite some time about this issue. And he's been in contact with the BLM about this issue. So those are the people that he has been familiar with in this process and he's been communicating with. The second aspect of that question is absolutely is that any citizen can make a complaint, but we do not just let any citizen come in and speak to the sheriff about every complaint. I mean, we would not be able to operate, we would not be able to go through a daily schedule if that was the case. So he's, as you can imagine, Clark County in our jurisdiction is one of the largest jurisdictions in the country, and there's a lot of issues that he has to handle. And truthfully, is that
as a representative for the Militia and the Bundy family, I think that what we're here to represent, what we're here to inquire about, we are that direct party, are we not?
Sir, I do not know you, and that I don't know if the sheriff has, had any conversation with you directly. And so my suggestion is, if you want to be the spokesman and you're identifying yourself for the Militia or Bundy, is put that on paper and a contact name, a contact number, and we can present that to him. And I would like, a little bit more of an agenda of the issues that you'd like to discuss with them, other than it being the Bundy issue, because certainly that would have been my guess for you.
So are you a liaison for him? You intend to relay to him whatever's said here?
Right, I'll pass it on.
Yeah.
So what then, our goal was actually to speak with him. So what do we need to do then to satisfy the school? And thank you very much for your time for doing that. We really appreciate it. We know all of you are just doing a job as well. Oh, there you are. So, and basically what we're here is we're doing a job too. We're people of this nation who have come together from all over. And I respect what you told us today. But I would like to also ask that we get a little more respect with the understanding that when people do come, this is a 911 call basically, and we'd like to get 10 minutes of the sheriff's time. Not saying all of us, but Ryan definitely, because he is there, he is the liaison, and you said it had to be a liaison for the Bundys. So a phone call could be made to qualify that, because it will be qualified. So since you started out saying it had to be a liaison, at least you know that we do have someone represented here once you make a phone call. So what I'd like to do, and the goal here, is to obviously be able to speak to the sheriff, whether it just be Ryan, or whether it be, Jerry and Mike, whoever is in the meeting, because we do have a right to do that. And this is an emergency. This is a national emergency. Our country is in disarray right now. We have Harry Reid calling us domestic terrorists, for gosh sakes, and we know we're not. We're people. I mean, we've all been harmed. And this isn't just about the Bundys. I mean, we've got land records that are crime scenes of America everywhere.
And so the specific redress that we wish to present is not upholding his oath to the people, which is to protect them from foreign invasion. And they were presented a violent force, and he did not protect them from that force. And we would like to ask him whether or not he intends to begin to uphold that oath and pursue his duties to his oath.
we'd like to go home, but we don't feel we can because the Bundys aren't safe, because the sheriff won't honor his oath to the people and tell BLM and the federal government to stand down in his county.
So
That's all we
we're
want.
all victims of this, because we really have. We have mothers and fathers across this nation who've been belittled, who've been made to feel that we're doing something wrong by standing behind the Bundys.
And everyone who's employed by the people, they're also victims of it. You yourselves having to do all the extra overtime work that we know you're doing. Really, the whole entire situation could go away if the sheriff would just stand up and honor his oath.
And so what do we need to do to make it happen, to get an appointment? Because we were told all day he was here today. And I think you can understand that all we're asking for is, where is there an opening to have him actually be present and do the job for the people, not just for a door that keeps shutting in the face. And this isn't just about Mr. Bundy. This has gone way beyond Mr. Bundy. I'm a victim in my own state of police brutality. And I grew up with police and firemen. My brother-in-law's a fireman. So I respect more than a lot of people, having watched them from the time I was little putting on those uniforms. My ex-husband's a Marine. My first husband, excuse me, I only had two, so it's not gonna be that long, was in the Army. But I'm telling you right now, this situation is not going away. And you have a sister, you have a mother, you have an aunt, you have a sister, you have an aunt. We all have people who've been victimized in some way. And this Bundy situation, we've got people from all over the United States. We've got people in Europe watching our talk shows and radio shows, listening to us. And the whole thing is, we have the ability in this town right now to stop the corruption that each of you know is going on. I do identity theft and research behind the scenes. We've seen it run through all of your jurisdictions. You guys all know that this is happening. We want to stop this because you guys are too good a guys. You guys aren't out here. I can see you're actually giving us faces that are very different than we mostly have, because we're usually being attacked. I'm usually backing up when we're talking. So I appreciate that you guys are backing us up right now. So what can we do to get an appointment? You guys can get back to being peacekeepers and not bullies anymore. So thank you for not being a bully today, and thank you for listening and helping.
Thank you for being so
I'd like to shake your hand. Thank you.
And sincerely.
And this is Mike's school.
Yeah, no, sorry, I know you feel like you're on the spot.
No,
Sorry about that.
So,
Do you,
go ahead. Yes,
do you
sir.
understand that the militia only stands out there in your stead, in this
So-
office's stead?
Right, sir, I don't want to get into debate
Yeah.
about,
Yes or no question. I only want to ask. How about that?
No, I don't want to get into debate about,
I don't want to debate either his stance or what work fine, yes or no.
Do you consider the
No.
Bundys a domestic terrorist?
again, sir, that, I'm not making more comments.
Well,
I wish I could do more for you.
I would say this, I'm Gary Gillespie, and it's a pleasure to meet you guys, and still want to see you sing. And the reality is that we want to go home. I drove 2,700 miles across the country to get here with my son and a friend of mine because Mr. Bundy asked me to. I didn't know before, but he's really distressed and his family's distressed. Really what we're trying to do is urge the sheriff to do his job. And I know there's politics of the job now, and I understand that my wife is a state legislator in New Hampshire. But the reality is we can meet with him for 10, 15 minutes while we come along Monday, so I'll probably get a little longer than that. But we try to get this resolved this time. And that way, everybody can go home, you guys can go back to your regular schedules and not worry about people coming in from around the country. Because we're here to support you.
We'd rather be taking vacations than spending, I mean, if you're gonna be in Las Vegas, you're supposed to be here on vacation, not camping out, help
Thank
us.
you, we really appreciate you
No,
coming down, we
thank you
appreciate it,
very
thanks a
much.
lot, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again very much.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Nice to meet you.
All right, guys.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Pleasure to
Thank
meet
you
you, boss.
very much.
Nice to see you.
Have a good night.
Bye, good night.
Strength in numbers for sure. Ryan?
Ryan. Yes.
So how do you think that went today, and what do you expect now?
It was more of an appeasement than anything, just to try to get us to go away. The appointment will be made. I'm curious to see. They have my contact information. They want Mr. Bundy to
to contact them just to let them know that I am a liaison, and then they said that they would meet and us.
I find it a little ironic that it has to be a liaison of Mr. Bundy, and when some of the people are there are have driven across the country, they know full well what's going on out there, and I think they're playing a little bit of a game with us, and to get us out of there. You can tell that they were nervous, obviously, by the amount of law enforcement officers that were surrounding us, and I mean, like, we look pretty threatening.
Right.
That's the point that we definitely tried to make, was that everybody should be able to redress their grievances to the power structure. We are the power structure. Well, they're just trying to make themselves seem like they are.
Well, when that's the heavy hand of law enforcement, say like the BLM, that weighs down instead of addressing the actual problem and following the law, that's when problems arise. That's why we're here. And this grievance isn't even of enough concern for the sheriff to really deal with in an actually honest way immediately. Is things get out of control, maybe on the federal government's end, because we don't know what they're doing either. We just want to get done so I can go home, so the rest of us can go home and get on with our lives, and Bundys can get on with their lives. What we're trying to do is get the Bundys into the system, back into the legal process, but so that they're not under the threat of actually being shot, and their children aren't looking down the barrel of a pointed rifle from a sniper, and that's really what's got to stop. And if the sheriff doesn't have the time to be able to have that discussion with us, then I'm not really quite sure if there's really anything to discuss with him. We'll see what happens when the meeting occurs, and if it's Ryan who's in there, Ryan knows full well what to say to him. But it might be wise that Mr. Bundy actually goes in on that meeting as well. So let's see if some kind of terms can be worked out. But the reality is the sheriff doesn't want to come out in public with us because he knows he's breaking his oath. He knows that. He knows he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing according. He knows that law. He's just not doing it. So he's avoiding that, and that's why we're getting the bump around, the push around in there, and they start trying to throw you in those channels that weave very slowly through the legal system. But hopefully he'll meet fairly soon with Mr. Bundy and maybe Ryan and whomever else, and get it resolved. But I mean, if they don't, it just tells me that they want to fight. It tells me if they don't want to meet with us, they want to push us to a fight. Somebody wants to
labeling us as domestic terrorists. That is an escalation. It shows us.
Sure, absolutely.
We know how they deal with it.
I mean, like Al Qaeda would walk in there and go, "Hey, look, you're saying some things bad about us. We want to meet with you because we're having a misunderstanding, and they don't want to talk to them and resolve it." I mean, Al Qaeda gets more respect from our federal government than we do as American citizens. I mean, if we were all illegal aliens and snuck across the border and had a problem, we'd get more respect. I mean, I think I've heard there's a couple of them in Congress who said, matter of fact, our president said that they have a right to be here. And it's ridiculous that the American citizens can't even get the legal system to work, can't even get themselves in the stream of it to accomplish what you need to live a peaceful life in this country. And it's just got to stop.
Do you have a question?
I just know that Cliven's wasted a lot of breath talking to Gillespie and has never gotten any traction. Do you really think that Mr. Bundy's ready or interested to come back?
Well, and there'll obviously things play out over time, and there will be developments that illuminate exactly what's going on here and what the process is intended to be. But what this was no one here is a Nevada citizen. No one that came to this confrontation with them, not this first meeting. And the point of that is that, for instance, Jerry has come from across the other side of the country to support someone who's having a difficulty with an overbearing power structure. I've come from Montana. People have come from all over the place to stand with the Bundys. And if they don't want to recognize that or acknowledge it or acknowledge us, then I think that's a perfect view into what their whole entire side of this is.
And there's an interesting point too, Ryan, is how many times have we seen their helicopters fly over, their planes fly over, and they're observing us, versus instead of stop it down, maybe send that helicopter down with the sheriff and then have a meeting. Right? They'd rather spend how many millions of dollars they spend or whatever it is, the cost of that to observe us. And it's crazy. I mean, when they can sit down and probably cost them 3 cups of coffee, and get this resolved if in fact he's an honest, legitimate sheriff who's gonna actually honor his oath.
Well, will the sheriff protect me? I've been a resident of Nevada for about 2 weeks now.
I
Does that
wouldn't
mean he
count
won't
on it. I
protect
mean-
me or talk to me? Because my residency for the last 2 weeks has been Clark
Well, you
County,
saw him
Nevada.
jump in front of the BLM. So.
Dark gray Nissan truck coming in. Just want to take a look around.
I'm just recording audio of this.
Copy. Yeah, go ahead.